how do you feel about some of the other things that software can do being handed out to, somebody
ass.
at one of the to the guy that set himself on fire at the independent we worked at?
Oh, story time.
Yeah, let's tell that story.
I set himself on fire. I don't remember that.
You and Joe were eating lunch at the front desk, and you said you looked up and saw through the glass in the shop Jeff running across, his arm on fire.
I probably
we can
did
just
say
make
that.
up the story.
Or was
I
that
probably
me?
did say that.
What's that mean?
I don't know. I feel like I was on vacation.
I've only had this much apple juice.
I'm pretty sure it was when I was gone and you broke your toe.
That's when we got married.
Well, if that's the case, then I was clearly otherwise involved with my foot. I do not remember. I do not remember him being on fire.
You're listening to Premeditated Opinions because, yes, we thought about it, and then we said it anyway. I'm Pamela.
And I'm Josh, and we are two people who somehow share a brain and decided to weaponize our brains with microphones. Each week, we unpack anything, from politics and religion to carpool dread and everything in between.
You know, it would really help us a lot if you followed us on Instagram and YouTube. Giving us a like and a follow is probably the best thing your thumbs will do today.
We are not experts. We are just way too confident in our own opinions. With all that being said, let's get started.
Well, welcome back to Premeditated Opinions. We are just kind of coming at you real scattered today. There's a lot going on. So first, I'm just going to break down, if you're watching this on YouTube, here's what you're probably seeing. You're seeing me in a hotel room because I am currently in New Orleans, Louisiana for work. You're seeing Pamela, who is joined for the very first time by Josh, the other Josh, her actual spouse, not her podcast co-host. And they have invited their longtime friend Scott, who is in Louisville, Kentucky. So this is truly a diversified location podcast here. We are doing the whole thing. So we are thrilled to kind of dive in. We have got something on the docket today that I think all of us will be able to speak to in some pretty interesting ways, and I'm excited about it. But just for starters, I want to give these two guys an opportunity to introduce themselves a little bit. So let's start with Josh. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and just tell us who you are, your relationship to this podcast, blah, 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 and I don't know, something interesting.
He's my husband, that's all. Okay, how about Scott?
I'm married to this one.
Well, that was disrespectful.
I've been working on cars 20 plus years now. Worked at various different manufacturers. I started out doing heavy duty stuff, so 18-wheelers, transit buses, cool stuff like that. And then recently I've taken a kind of a different role than turning wrenches. I don't have to do that anymore. So it's a little bit more of the software and diagnostic side of stuff. But yeah, it's been a trip.
It's what brought us down to Dallas.
And it's also how I met Scott.
This is true. This is true.
Oh, I was looking
at
this. Okay.
The greatest event of his life.
Turns out it was more important than marriage, children.
Yeah, clearly, far and away more important.
I mean, there for a long time, anytime I left work and Scott and I were not working together, he injured himself.
Also true. Also true.
Yeah. So, Scott, who the hell are you, man?
I am the greatest person you will ever know. No, I have also worked on vehicles for, if you count college now, over 20 years. Because I did go to a technical school for whatever that was worth. And I have been in dealership roles as a mainline technician. I have worked in independent shops, which is where I met Josh. And I've been at my current job for almost 14 years, and as one of the lead technicians there, training apprentices, things like that. I am what they call a world-class technician for General Motors, so not too many of us out there, but that allows me a little respect at work, a little leeway with people, so Whether or not I'm really all that good, I don't know. But it says I am on paper. So,
Nice.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
The paper's all that matters.
My wife and I had an opportunity to go up to Louisville and actually meet Scott and Amy back in October of last year, and had a great time with them. Had a great time in Louisville in general. That was a blast of a trip. So I have had the opportunity to hang with Scott and Amy a little bit, and they're awesome. And so basically, like, this is a pretty unique set of topics today, only because, you know, we brought some people on to chat through right to repair legislation, because we know that this has been big news. It's going to continue to be big news, and as just the world of consumer goods continues to evolve, it's going to continue to be big news. And so we wanted to chat through right to repair a little bit, and we're trying as a podcast to take on some things that kind of challenge us and give us an opportunity to voice some of these premeditated opinions. Is actually the name of this freaking show. So as we kind of roll into this, I wanted to set the stage for what right to repair is, and sort of identify both sides of this argument, because this has been in legislation both on the state and federal level, and there's some major manufacturers who are really backing this. There's other manufacturers who aren't so much. But right to repair basically refers to the idea that when you as a consumer buy a product, be it a phone or a car or a tractor or a medical device, an appliance, that you as the consumer should have the legal right to repair it yourself or take it to an independent repair facility rather than being forced to use the manufacturer's service network. And basically, to me, this really comes down to how we define ownership. So the case for right to repair, the pro-repair arguments, like they're drawn from a few different categories. So the first one is consumer rights and ownership. If you bought it, then you own it. And if you're forcing a consumer to use your like required repair network to actually fix it, then it's kind of seen as an extension of a monopoly, to where, okay, the ownership never really transferred to the consumer who bought it if the manufacturer has to be the one to do all the repairs. Cost is a huge factor because authorized repair centers are almost always more expensive. There's environmental impact, forcing people to buy new devices or new equipment when a simple repair would suffice. And there's a lot more kind of nuance around like rural access and small businesses. The case against right to repair comes down to safety and intellectual property more than anything else. But the argument for safety is that poorly executed repairs can create genuine danger, especially in complex electronics, medical devices, and vehicles. And then intellectual property is an interesting one. So repair often requires access to proprietary software, schematics, or trade secrets. And then there's quality control elements, other security elements. So anyway, I'm curious, just to the two technicians in this recording, how have you guys encountered this already? Have you encountered anything around this already? And what does that look like practically, like in the worlds that you're in?
Well, I mean, I see facets of that every day. Like, we have a tremendous amount of components that require what they call a PUN, a part unique number. Not that this, you take a component off a vehicle and have a replacement component. It's clearly going to bolt up. It's going to be exactly the same. However, you have to be able to input that unique number into the ECU for it to function, or it will not work, even though everything's bolted up, everything's hooked up exactly like it was. And some of those parts have nothing to do with calibrations or anything else. It's just simply letting the vehicle recognize that you have replaced this component. Your average consumer is incapable of doing that. Even with the tools to take something completely apart, the tools to put it back, even with the knowledge, they are incapable of actually accomplishing the completed task because they have no way to access that software. They have no way to put that in. And you might have something very inexpensive that shuts down a $80,000 vehicle that you could very much replace yourself, but now you're required to take it to a dealership or a facility that has access to that software to fix it. And that can probably be extremely frustrating.
Yeah, these parts you're talking about, I mean, are these basic parts that have been on cars forever? Are these like things that are coming out, or are these computer only? Like what like kind of parts?
In a sense, yes. Some of them are parts that have been in a vehicle forever. For example, since the inception of, like I said, I work for General Motors. So then since the inception of their 8-speed transmissions, 10-speed transmissions, things like that, you have a valve body, which automatic transmissions have had valve bodies since they began. I mean, they're just electronically controlled now, and they communicate with a lot of different things. In the grand scheme of things, it is not very difficult to replace one of these. If you can get under the vehicle, you take the transmission pan off, you unbolt the bolts, you bolt it back up. However, even you can go into a dealership or a facility and buy this part, and you can go home, and if you have the knowledge and tools, you can look the directions up and do the entire repair yourself. But you have to have that number, which is stamped on the valve body or in the paperwork with it, and you have to be able to program that in, or it will not work. So you can go buy the tools to do it. You can buy the parts to fix it. You can do everything yourself. But that last step to get you across the finish line, you can't accomplish. Which for somebody who is mechanically inclined or whatever would be a very difficult. You've worked on cars your whole life. You've just never worked in a professional setting. There's plenty of people out there that do stuff on the side, and they can't finish it. So. Yeah. That's when you're trying to save money in this day and age. I mean, that can be tough.
So would you have to go to a dealership to get that done, or will dealers like not even enter that for you because of like liability or something?
No, we actually have several times, me specifically, but the dealerships in general, like even a transmission itself, the entire component has, they don't call it a pun, it's a ton, a transmission unique number. That has to be programmed in. Yes, we don't have an issue as long as you've done the repair appropriately that we can tell. We don't have an issue typically programming it, but there are plenty of independent shops around us that will replace these valve bodies, these transmissions, and there are various other components in a vehicle that have numbers like that need to be programmed. And they will bring it to us, and if they have the number, we can put it in. Now, unfortunately, this is where some of the repairing it yourself people screw up. If that number, for example, wasn't in the paperwork, the only way to get it is to actually physically look at the part. And if you've already installed it and you didn't record the number, you didn't do what you needed to do, then it's either up to you to take it back out, get the number off, or then you have to pay us or whoever you want to remove the component and get the number. There is no way around it. You have to have those numbers to program it in to make the part function correctly. I'm not saying they won't work, but they won't function correctly.
Yeah, but then that's also probably added cost, because I'm assuming some of these parts the car won't run without.
Oh,
so you
correct.
would have to probably get it towed in.
Yeah, you'd have to get
you'd have to pay to get it towed in. I'm just thinking back to like when I was a kid. And my dad would work on, he had an 88 Grand Am, Pontiac Grand Am, and he would buy those Hayes books. Do you remember?
Yeah,
like
Hayes manuals.
The Hayes manuals at AutoZone. And, he did a lot of his own repairs just, outside. He would be pissed if he replaced it, because I could absolutely see my dad saying it's a bad part and taking it off and changing it out. And then, so now he's gone through this whole rigmarole, and now he's finding, I got to take it in. I can't get it there. Would it have just been cheaper for me to take it in and get it replaced? Or am I saving any money going this alternate route?
Well,
yeah,
it depends on the price of the part, and it depends on how people quantify how valuable their time is. I mean, if it's something that I can just simply reach over here and unbolt in 10 minutes and bolt up, then it's worth me doing that and then taking it somewhere and having it done, having it finished. But if it's a very highly involved process, it's not that somebody can't do it, but it becomes is it worth it for me? And that comes down to the individual. I can't say what my time's worth versus somebody else. Like they might value their time way less than me.
And do you charge people who come in to get these parts registered?
Yes, because it has to. We have to use. It has to be programmed. So we charge, which any shop, where everybody's labor rate is different. So you charge whatever the door rate is, for a half hour, an hour to program, whatever the case may be.
Which could be over $100. I mean, and then
yes.
Yeah, and then do you do any sort of inspection? I mean, because I'm assuming there's a liability component to this too, where you probably need to make sure was it installed correctly before we go and register this, because if we let it out on the road and it's not installed correctly and there's something that goes wrong, is the dealership liable for that?
In general, in my personal experience, of course, everything is anecdotal for me. No, we don't. I mean, you do a cursory inspection for any vehicle that you look at. We're clearly going to alert somebody, even if it's not related to something they did. We're going to be, your wheel's getting ready to fall off, or something terrible's getting ready to happen. But no, we get many people that install their own engines, install their own transmissions, major components, and some of them do it exactly how we would, and some of them do not. And you can very much tell the difference between somebody who knew what they were doing and somebody that didn't. And regardless, if it's functioning when they bring it in, no, we program it, we cut them loose, because that's on you. The onus is on you for what you've done. Like you repaired it, you did it, and that's it.
Yeah, like the repair order or whatever, once they sign that, like that's their legal document that said, I brought my car in here for this one specific thing.
Yep.
You are doing that. You are not liable. If you read the small print on there, there's a bunch. Like you're not liable if...
And almost all dealerships will have some sort of form or something that you sign. You are, so that way we're not held liable if you do something stupid.
Yeah. So with right to repair now, like I'm assuming you guys don't use like the Tech 2 anymore, at least like for up to date. Okay. Yeah.
Not since pre-2012.
Remember, a lot of our aren't gearheads.
It's a scan tool that was proprietary to GM, whatever. I'm assuming you guys have entered this century and are using like laptops for your connections and all that jazz.
Correct.
So at this point, like right to repair is manufacturers have to make the tools that are available to their technicians available to everyone.
Correct. That is what right to repair is, yes.
Yeah, so like how do you feel about some of the other things that software can do being handed out to somebody at one of the to the guy that set himself on fire at the independent we worked at?
Oh, story time.
Yeah, let's tell that story.
It is.
Scott, you tell that one because I wasn't there.
Okay, and one thing, so tell your stories in the power of editing. If there's anything you're like, hey, actually, I don't want that to be on the internet, like just when we're done and we can cut it out. So
yeah, I'm sure everything about my life's on the internet anyway. So I'm not that interesting, I promise. I set himself on fire. I don't remember that.
You and Joe were eating lunch at the front desk, and you said you looked up and saw through the glass in the shop Jeff running across with his arm on fire.
I probably did say that.
Make up the story.
Or was that me?
I probably did say that.
What's that mean?
I don't know. I feel like I was on vacation.
I've only had this much apple juice.
I'm pretty sure it was when I was gone and you broke your toe.
That's when we got married.
Well, if that's the case, then I was clearly otherwise involved with my foot. I do not remember. I do not remember him being on fire. I remember a lot of stuff about Jeff. But
anyways,
Well, to your point, though, so like there's obviously tools and specialized equipment that a layman like me really has no business messing with, and within the right to repair argument, like making those tools available to somebody like me is probably not a great idea. I mean, like I am in no way, shape, form, or fashion the level of mechanic that either one of you two are. Back in my broker days when I had not a lot of money but plenty of time, I did loads of my own, like general maintenance and some basic repairs. I've done radiators, starter motors, stuff like that. Stuff that I could easily find instructions and parts for and do myself because I was a broke ass, 20-something year old and could figure it out. So I'm not completely ignorant under the hood of a vehicle, but at the same time, I don't feel at all qualified to handle like substantial tools I probably don't even know exist. I'm not in the worlds that you guys are in. And so like I feel like there's probably opportunities for a general consumer to do some real damage to not only their vehicle but to themselves. Like do you see it that way based on what you're seeing just in your own professional lives? Like are there opportunities where if people had too much access it would really be detrimental?
100%. I already see that. Like, people can't be trusted. I mean, unfortunately. Like to your point earlier about the software and people having access, like, okay, for exactly what you just said, you are obviously cognizant enough to say, I can do X, Y, Z, but I know the rest of this is beyond my capabilities. Like, so you are aware to go, I'm good. Are you familiar with the Dunning-Kruger effect and what that actually means?
Yes.
That essentially is how a lot of this transpires. And with these crappy repairs is because with the inception of YouTube and Reddit and everything else where you can just look up a how-to or look up a video, which is great. Don't get me wrong. I have utilized so many. I've fixed furnaces, water heaters, things that are way out of my realm of normal dealings. But because of my experience in what I do, I have enough knowledge to look at something and go, that's beyond my scope, or that's dangerous. I don't have the tools to handle that. I should stop. Where you get the people that vastly overestimate their abilities and they look at something and go, that's not a big deal. And then they go to do a repair and they end up taking a strut out and the spring flies out, or they do, they take the wrong nut. They, with EVs and stuff and batteries and things, and somebody touches the wrong cable or does the wrong thing because they saw it on TV or on YouTube, and at worst case they kill themselves, but they're probably at least going to hurt themselves, like terribly. I mean,
or catch something on fire.
Yes, literally. I mean, you maybe you contain the concern to yourself, but you make an improper repair on a vehicle or something, and you run the risk of hurting somebody else on the road or anything else.
I mean, but it's always been a risk, especially with like engine.
I'm not saying they shouldn't be able to do that, but it's difficult when not everyone is so self-aware to go, I probably shouldn't do this. Like,
try this. Yeah.
So, I mean, you can't just instill that into everyone.
With gas engines and, like heavy duty stuff, a lot of your injury is going to be things that are like fairly obvious. Like, okay, I'm going to pull this engine out with some 550 paracord and we're going to see what happens.
Strap it to a tree limb.
It's going to fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to fall. And that's so a lot of those like injury based things with older cars are kind of obvious to most people.
They should be.
When you're getting
obvious.
I don't know. I still get nervous when I jump a battery. Like I'm always afraid,
that's what I'm getting into.
Okay.
It's like I'm in the high voltage space basically since I came out of tech school. Like we piloted a program with GM for transit hybrid buses. And it was 900 volts, and we were trained to mess with it. Which is
more than enough to kill you. Like, if you do something wrong, more than enough.
But Now we're getting into, the Hummer. It's got, what, 800-volt battery? 400, something like that?
It's something way up, because we have the Hummer. I mean, well, of course, there's a lot of manufacturers, but General Motors specifically, they've got the Hummer, they've got the Silverado, they've got the Equinox. So we have a half a dozen plus full EV vehicles.
Yeah. So you got those.
I didn't know the Silverado was. I didn't know that.
So they've got that. You've got Ford with the F-150 Lightning. Porsche, their electric one. That is an 800-volt system. They were one of the first people to put in an 800-volt system.
Ford has Maverick too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tesla, Rivian, all these people, and it really is like they've tried to make it idiot proof.
Yeah.
As far as like a global standard, I mean, H-Fill's, if those that don't know, H-Fill's high voltage interlock loop. If you unplug it, it cuts off the high voltage to that. But there are ways around that. What if the car's damaged? Like, I struggle to think, like, if an EV today goes to a third party, like, that's going to be a struggle, and it's dangerous.
Well, let's
just say we were.
So, like what you said about, we were talking about the different brands. Like, just for example, take the Silverado that you said you didn't know we made a full EV. You have to have at minimum a 10,000-pound rated lift to raise an EV Silverado. You don't have to have that for a standard one.
Yeah,
like minimum, because those batteries are humongous and they weigh a ton. Both of my lifts at work are only rated for 9,000 pounds. So, which is more than enough for the vast majority of anything. I can raise a 3,500 up, no problem. I can do plenty of work. I can do anything else. But just to do work on one of these vehicles, and the Hummer's the same way. You have to have these. For a while we had, because General Motors had the Bright Drop, which is like these huge fully electric transport vans, and you had to have we had to have a 15,000 pound drive-on rack installed just to lift these up. And that's something third parties may not know or may not, because the problem is when you get more specialized in something, you have to have more specialized equipment to do it safely. Not to say somebody can't lift it up, they can't do something, and they might not be able to do a repair, and it'd be fine. There's a reason, which is slightly off topic, but there's a reason things like OSHA exist. That stuff was written in blood because somebody thought this will be fine, or it's been fine for the past 10 times I did it, and then one of the rack arms breaks or something, and somebody's killed. That's...
So then that also leads to the right to repair then. Are you even given any materials or anything even tell you that these are the things that you need in order to do this?
The internet.
So, yes. Yeah.
Oh.
So, even the vehicle tag sticker and the door jamb, gross vehicle weight.
Yeah.
But is somebody going to be cognizant enough of that to know they need to read it and know they need a 10,000 pound lift instead of an 8,000 pound?
A vast majority of information you need about your vehicle is in your owner's manual that nobody reads anymore.
Ever reads.
I cannot tell you how many stories I've written when I'm completing a repair order, and I'm like, please reference page 347 in your owner's manual for how this system operates.
It is as a technician, that was my favorite thing to do.
Yes, it's hilarious.
Not a repair manual, though.
It isn't,
doesn't
but
matter.
when we weren't talking about repairing, we were talking about just basic understanding of the vehicle. And if I can't trust you to have basic understanding, I find it difficult to trust you. That's what we're talking about, the Dunning-Kruger. You have already skipped past several steps in doing a repair just because you wanted to jump straight in. You're not even making the basic part of this safe for yourself. I still think people should have the capabilities to do that, but I can't force you to read. I can't force you to understand. And that's where because I have views on both sides of this, but I don't know what the right answer is, because I want people to be able to fix stuff, but I want you to be safe. I can't make you be safe. I can't make you do
Right.
things. So,
Yeah, Josh, I'm curious. So, like, I know early in your career, you already talked about some of the buses that you were involved with. I know that you had some heavy equipment background, some diesel background. You and I even, I remember you telling me stories about doing repairs on like garbage trucks and stuff like
Yep.
that. So, like, a big component to the whole right to repair conversation stemmed from John Deere, the tractor manufacturer, and they. I've actually done some production work for John Deere, and I've been in the room when executives were discussing this, and so I've had a front row seat literally to some of these conversations, and so I understand. Like, as I've worked with John Deere over the years, I've seen some of their product demos and how their equipment's gotten a lot more advanced, and it's just it's not just a diesel motor on 4 big wheels anymore. These tractors, especially, there's a lot going on in all of this stuff, and so I'm curious, like, even from a heavy equipment standpoint, like, I hear the argument of some of the rural community around, like, hey, we can't afford to sit around and wait on, a John Deere certified technician to come out here and fix this that might take 2 weeks, but I need to be running this tractor in 48 hours, and I've got a guy that I think can fix it. Like, on more of the heavy equipment diesel side of things, like, how does that shift your perspective, or does it shift your perspective around some of the right to repair conversation?
No, I sit, again, I'm like Scott, I sit on both sides. Like, everybody should be able to repair everything, let them have at it, as long as they breed. And so, like, but when it comes to, like, the heavy duty stuff,
well, and probably have a certain level of confidence of what they're doing. I mean, I can read the book and still be like, yeah, probably shouldn't be doing this.
Well, yeah, but
unfortunately, you're in the minority. People read stuff and go, that sounds terrible, I'll do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I've done that, so.
Oh, I know.
Like, if I had, like, repair or instructions for how to put this bookcase together, no, gone, out of here.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if I can't figure out how to put a bookcase together, I don't deserve to put the bookcase together. I deserve whatever's going to happen.
Right. Oh my gosh.
This is why
I build the majority of the furniture in this house.
Hang on, though. But
well, I read the instructions and still get it wrong, but at least I tried.
My outlook on bookcases is because I know it's a bookcase and nothing's. The worst that's going to happen is I put
you drop all your books
backwards,
right?
And I have to take it apart and turn the shelf around and put it back.
I don't know. It could
like
fall or collapse on kids. Like, you haven't thought this through. Anyway.
It's not high stakes. So, but no, going back to, like, John Deere and stuff, like, I mean, because that was the main thing that brought a lot of this to, like, media and everything. And yeah, I don't agree with it. I mean, when it comes to just something like the TPNs or whatever Scott was talking about, the unique part numbers, the UPNs or whatever, like, stuff like that shouldn't be a thing. Now, when you get into, like, making keys for cars, because it's not like you can just, back in the day you had to take your key to the locksmith or the dealer and they could cut it. Like, you could go, what was it, old Chevy trucks, you had a key for the door and a key for the ignition.
Yeah.
And that's a joke when you see somebody with a GM or Chevy and they got 2 keys on.
My dad's Pontiac had that.
Yeah,
my old car still has that.
We moved to some that, like, had resistors in them, and then we moved on to, like, the electronic, and you got your push to start and stuff. Like, do you really want the software out there,
right?
For somebody to just program a key and to your car, like, they break the window, they plug into the port, and they've got a key that they picked up off Amazon. They've now programmed it to your car. They get in and drive off.
Well, okay, so we started kind of with the mechanics and the like physical aspects of right to repair, and now, like, we're kind of shifting more into that, like, software IP conversation of, it's not even so much can you change these parts? Can you do this, the physical mechanical part of it? Now it's, okay, I'm having some issue with my screen, or some thing is going off. I don't know what kind of problems you encounter, but like, I don't even have the software I need. I literally can't do anything with this unless I guess I have an engineering degree, or I download Linux, or I don't know. I don't know.
Computer engineering.
Yeah. So can you guys kind of talk more about like that side of it? Like as far as, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I actually have something to offer that specific part of this, because I can't really contribute much to the mechanical, like hands-on side, but the intellectual property side, like, so my line of work, I've done a ton of video and film production for clients of all shapes and sizes, and something I've done a lot of over the years, which is pretty boring but usually pays pretty well, is training content. Loads and loads of different companies need training content on video. And so when I start getting into that stuff, I'm signing NDAs and things like that, because I'm about to get like front row access to all of this proprietary information that these manufacturers don't really want other people to have any access to. And then you start, it's because it starts to bleed over into like copyright territory and patent territory. And so that's where this gets really gray for me personally, because on one hand, I have a very clear idea of what I want ownership to be. Like, I can't stand how many things are subscriptions in the year 2026. Like, just let me buy the freaking software. Like, I'll pay you one time, you give me software, we're done. But like just yesterday, I was looking at an app for my phone that I was kind of kicking around buying, and then I saw it was $10 a month, and I was like, screw that. Like, I don't want another subscription software. And so I have very clear personal ideas of what ownership is and what I want it to be. And at the same time, as both a business owner and as somebody who has worked in creative media, I do see the intellectual property and patent side of this, and as vehicles have become more and more complex, I got to imagine that, I mean, it's not like just if Ford wanted to understand what Chevrolet was doing with their electric Silverado, they could just go buy a Silverado and take it apart. So it's not like you could prevent these manufacturers from discovering something, at least from a mechanical standpoint. But from a software standpoint, I do see how this is a gray area. Like, I wouldn't necessarily want a layman with no experience to be able to mess around in the software on really most vehicles now that are packed full of software. And so, like, how does that bleed over into y'all's worlds a little bit from an intellectual property and like patent copyright standpoint?
Well, like you said, nothing would stop Ford from buying a vehicle from another manufacturer and taking it apart, because
every
they
manufacturer
have the capabilities.
Does that.
Yeah.
Right. They do that. They know. Like, they're going to do it. But your average individual isn't. And that's one of the to me, there's only a few reasons to support not having right to repair. And I think the corporations and stuff that don't want it, they hide behind those couple reasons. They're valid, but they stretch them way out. Safety, yes. Intellectual property. I understand. You take a company like Apple, Samsung, General Motors, Ford, whoever. These people have spent millions and billions of dollars to develop something, and it is theirs, And I can understand that if I was in that same position and spent untold amount of money on something, I wouldn't just want to have your average person have access to it when they could then replicate it, emulate it, make it cheap. That's disingenuous to my brand, which is part of a lot of these manufacturers and a lot of these companies and what they do. And I can get that. I can appreciate that. As far as them having access to things when it comes to the software, that's kind of a tricky area, because we're not talking anymore about, okay, you need to fix your stove, the circuit board in your stove, you need to do this. Everything in the world now is attached to the internet. Everything has access. Chrysler has their Uconnect system. General Motors has OnStar. Every manufacturer has something. And these aren't just systems. They may have started that way, where it was just simply a GPS and it was simply keeping you safe. With General Motors OnStar, you can download an app on your phone. I can start the car remotely from my phone. I can open the doors. I can roll the windows down. I can shut the vehicle off. There's already been videos out years ago where Chrysler's Uconnect system was backdoored and taken over, and they were able to steer the vehicle. They were able to shut it off. These are extremely dangerous things. Because, not that another manufacturer can't reverse engineer somebody's software or whatever, but when you give potentially bad actors the keys to the kingdom to let them program, rewrite something, do whatever else, that, again, most people are probably going to want to just fix my damn car. But you've got other people that are going to use those capabilities for something entirely malevolent and could potentially cause, because once you figure out how to backdoor one system, it becomes increasingly easy to adopt that to everything else. And with the things that you can do with an automobile nowadays from your phone, like brand new General Motors vehicles, you don't even have to have a key fob anymore. We're given literally hotel key cards is what you can have, a key card, and that's how you which these things, a lot of it is built with security in mind. It's built with, you were talking about programming keys and stuff earlier. Some of our newer vehicles, for many, many moons, it was 10 to 12 minutes to program a key. Our newer SUVs and stuff are over 2 hours to program.
Whoa.
That's 2 hours your vehicle has to sit and be programmed. The computer can't be touched. And all of that was to deter somebody from stealing it or whatever else. It's not that they can't, but in general, most people might sit there for 10 minutes to steal your car. They're probably not going to sit there for 2.5 hours. They're going to do something else because they're probably going to get caught. But because of situations like this, it makes it incredibly difficult for the technician when they're just trying to do something very simple or benign. And it's the same way with any modules or software. I say it like I have access to it is extreme. Even in my professional life, it is extremely frustrating for some of these barricades that we have in place that I think are due to right to repair, because a lot of my diagnosis has pretty much come down to put this part on. If that don't fix it, put this part on. If that don't fix it, I almost feel like I'm guessing. I feel like I did more diagnosis on vehicles 10 years ago than I do now, because they don't want that information about how to really check something. They don't want it out there. Now, eventually that's going to have to change, or else, especially with how advanced things are getting, but we don't even have access, and I don't know about other manufacturers. Again, I can only speak for myself, but we don't specifically have access to go in and look at software to go in and do things like that. That's an involved process where we have to get General Motors involved, and they have to send us special codes. We have to do all this stuff, which I can understand. They don't want that stuff getting out, but it's stifling. It's stifling.
Well, and as a reminder too, Scott works for the dealership, so it's kind of one of those, if you don't know how to do it, and then a mom and pop can't do it, and so then you go to the dealership and go ahead.
So that's an interesting point to right to repair, though, is with right to repair, manufacturers have to give all of the tooling and all of the information and software that they would give their technicians to a third party. Scott, have you seen any of your access or your BMW called them test plans, but your diagnosis, instructions and things, have you seen those get shrunk down, or access to things that you used to be able to do on the car a year ago, now you can't do it?
I have not seen I'm trying to think. Because it's almost everything that we do. I would say 90% of what I do. You can go to a program like Identifix or AllData or whatever, which are subscription-based services. You're still and it's out there. And a lot of times
that a lot of independents use.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you have the money to pay for the subscription, if you use enough, it's a wealth of knowledge. It's fantastic. But you can't just access it typically as a normal person. And a lot of times the repairs that are outlined in one of those programs are word for word what comes out of our specific diagnosis charts. I mean, the schematics are exactly the same. The diagnosis is exactly the same. But they still lead you, like we talked about earlier with having to program it. They can't get you. Those programs don't give you access to the back end where you can actually, and there are plenty of programs out there that you can buy, you have huge tool dealers like Matco and Snap-on and Mac and stuff, and you can buy these $12,000 scan tools, and they can do a tremendous amount of work. Your average person is not going to go out and buy a $12,000 scan tool. But if you do that, a lot of times those come with, don't fix it, just buy a new one. A lot of times those come with at least a year of software, and you are able to go in. Like, I know people who rebuild salvage titles, flood vehicles and stuff, and they are able to, across a wide range of manufacturers, program modules and do specific things, and they have to pay, I don't know what it is, $100, $200 for every time that they have to use this program. But there are systems out there that allow you to do this. You have to have this tool, you have to have the knowledge, you have to have, so in a lot of respects, those tools and programs are already available to the public, but there still comes in certain situations, and it's getting tighter, there are still very specific situations where you're hemmed up. You have to go to the manufacturer-specific facility, and they want it that way because if you control the repairs, you control the revenue. That's right. Really what it boils down to. If I force you to come here, then I get to charge you whatever it is I want to charge you because you don't have a choice. Just like with John Deere we talked about earlier. They just lost a $99 million lawsuit or whatever about the right to repair. But interesting, in their paperwork, they did not admit fault for their business model. They agreed. Their business model, they didn't say anything about. They thought it was fine. The $99 goes back, or $99 million goes back to like 2016 or 2018 to cover the farmers and agricultural people and things where they had issues. And they have agreed for the next, I think, 10 years, decade, to allow third-party repair facilities to have access to their programs, to their parts, to the stuff that they previously didn't have access to allow people to continue to repair their equipment. But even in that isn't we were wrong, let's let everybody have this. They still have a deadline for the next 10 years, and they still didn't admit that what they were saying was predatory or anything. It was the wrong way to deal with it. But like I said, I can understand it's their intellectual property. You don't want people repairing it because most people don't blame. If there's a problem, you don't blame the part. You blame the brand. If I have a $500 million or a $500,000 combine and I'm out doing stuff in the field and it goes wrong, and even if I go to Joe Bob's repair facility and he fixes it, nobody necessarily, if that same part fails because that guy programmed it or fixed it or did whatever and it wasn't up to John Deere specifications, they don't blame that guy. If it's the same part that failed that was originally on, they blame John Deere. Like, they don't blame the person. And so a lot of that is brand management because they want to make sure that was the big thing for iPhone when they got sued. They want to make sure their stuff is fixed to their specifications, to the way they want it. That way, if there is a problem, then yes, that was our problem, that was our failed component. Whereas when you take it somebody else, that gives the manufacturer an out to go, well, you had access to our stuff, but you didn't do it right. You didn't put the right part on. You didn't program it correctly. And that goes back to that. If you allow people to do programming, you allow people to potentially program in exploits or
to
not
modify the programming.
Yeah. And that really is the big problem today. It's not the parts, it's the software.
Hey everybody, Josh here. I'm jumping in real quick because this conversation went really great. So great that we're actually going to split it up into 2 different episodes. We didn't want to bombard you with too much right to repair content all at once. And I feel like this conversation deserves the time that we gave it. So we're going to end this episode here, and we're going to pick up part 2 when our next episode is scheduled to release. So we really hope you've enjoyed this conversation about right to repair. We believe this is something important. We believe that it applies to all of our lives, and it will only continue to apply more and more. So stay tuned for part 2.
Well, that's it for Premeditated Opinions, where the thoughts were fully baked and only mildly regrettable. If you enjoyed today's episode, congrats on having truly excellent taste in podcasts and opinions. Following us on YouTube and Instagram is a quick and easy way to support us. So if you liked literally anything about today's episode, please like and subscribe.
Also, send this to someone who needs to feel seen, dragged, or both. We'll be back next week with more unsolicited insight and emotionally responsible spiraling. And until then, please stay hydrated and behave yourself in the comments. But if you don't, at least make us laugh.